Oh, and what is up, YouTube? My name is G3 Iron, and today we are 7 days, 2 hours, 2 minutes, and 44 seconds away from the drop of PoE 3.6 synthesis. And so with a week to go, just over a week to go, only a few scintillating hours that we must wait until we are officially 1 week to go, I figured that we would have a couple of different discussion topics that we'd throw out there, and hopefully we can have a great chat down in the comments below, which, by the way, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified for more videos just like this one. Thanks so much, and shout out to everybody, all 274 of you that voted on the most recent poll. Over the next week, we're going to be talking about pricing rare boots. We're also going to be talking about hardcore versus softcore player motivations and mentality, the difference between playing a character in a hardcore league versus playing a character in a softcore league. As many of you know, this league I'm going to be playing hardcore, so if you're wondering, hey, what's going to be going on the channel, and why is it that the economics of the channel look a little bit different? Why is it that the things and focus of the channel seems to be a lot more defensive and on survivability? It's because I'm going to be playing hardcore this league, so that's why we're going to do that. And we're going to have that discussion on some of the mentality issues in its own separate video. We are also going to talk about what happened to fun and games, potentially, if I've got enough time, if work doesn't overrun me this week. So that being said, that's what's coming up over the next week. But today I wanted to talk about just a couple of things. One of them was this beautiful post that I saw on Reddit from yesterday. Somebody did this great job of the Ascendancies balanced. And I wanted to chat about this. Of course, the link to the Reddit thread is down below in the video description. But I wanted to really quick give 2 points of discussion on this. So first off, when you first look at the breakdown of ascendancies and what ascendancies are popular, we need to remember that this is a breakdown of the ascendancies that are popular, ranking builds that are level 95 and above. Or sorry, here it's level 92 and above. So when you're looking at this data and you're going to say, okay, this seems like the ascendancies are really out of whack, and certainly this image here makes it look like these ascendancies are definitely out of balance, right? That the Scion, that the Elementalist, and the Occultist are very much flavor of the month. I want to differentiate this for our discussion, and this is point one. These are the popular ascendancies, not necessarily the most broken ascendancies. It could be that they are the most broken ascendancies, but simply because something is popular in Path of Exile does not automatically mean that it's broken, that it needs nerfed, that it needs changed. And simply because something isn't popular in Path of Exile doesn't mean that it's underpowered, that it's broken in a bad way, or that it's not usable. Now, that being said, that's the first point. The second point is there are some observations to be made from popular choices that the player base makes. So if 51% of the player base in Betrayal is playing and has made it to level 92 through level 100, is playing an Ascendant, an Elementalist, or an Occultist, and then 49% of the league is playing the complete rest of the other ascendancies, there's probably an issue here, maybe with groupthink, not so much with balance. I just want to throw that out there, that maybe it's actually groupthink, not so much balance that's going on here. But maybe there are some things about balance. A couple of different people have made mention, specifically in the Reddit thread, that Ascendant simply has more flexibility in it, and it's got some better options than simply going full-on into an Ascendancy. So, for instance, different combinations. Raider Slayer is better than simply just going Raider or simply going Slayer. That a couple of defensive ascendancies mixed with a couple of offensive ascendancies, like going Champion, along with potentially Pathfinder or Deadeye. Like, there are some different ways to combo the Ascendant. And then, plus, there's just a whole bunch of people playing support that play Ascendant, because it's better to be an Ascendant support than it is necessarily to be a Necromancer support or a Guardian support for the most part. So, there's a lot of different factors that are going into this, and even this channel, even myself, I am a part of this. We're all just sheeple. We're all a part of this community here together. Are a part of following a meta and are a part of following what other people do. And simply because something is popular does not necessarily mean that in its design it is in fact inherently better. So I'd love to have a conversation on that as we're discussing this today, because it so often, when we see numbers like this, we just get reactionary as a community, and we start, grabbing our pitchforks and our torches. Rawr, GGG, why is it that you've nerfed the Chieftain forever, and the Berserker sucks, and why is it that Trickster's over there in a corner crying? Well, there are reasons why people play popular builds, and I would go so far as to say a lot of these decisions that people are playing aren't necessarily even just based on the Ascendancy themselves, but maybe combinations of the Ascendancy plus items. So Impulsas, I'm looking at you. Other sorts of item combinations are also factors of this. For instance, like we just went over, that support, it's just better to play Ascendant oftentimes. So that might be something where we're actually have a legitimate gripe at saying, excuse me, GGG, what's going on with the design principles here behind playing support? But for the most part, I think a lot of people would just be able to look at the Ascendancies here and then look at what people are playing on Twitch or showing off on YouTube and go, yeah, of course people are going to play these things. So that's a factor. I think that is a factor in the discussion. It's not just about the development side and what is actually strong in the game. Some of it is also the meta and groupthink and what is popular amongst players, that a lot of players won't even necessarily go out of their way to test or to try out different Ascendancies to see how strong they are. They'll simply wait to see if somebody else has said if something is strong rather than trying it out themselves. I'm not saying that attitude either in and of itself is a problem. I'm simply saying when we're observing something like this is telling us, these numbers are telling us what's popular, not necessarily mechanically what's best, and maybe there's some groupthink going on here. So I would encourage you to go to PoE Ninja and take a look. I've got a hot link down for it down below in the video description. But I would encourage you to go and take a look here, because some of these Ascendancies are seriously underrepresented in Betrayal. Now, when you're looking at Ascendancy choices and item choices in particular, and you want to really look at get into the nitty-gritty of what's really, really strong and what's not, Watcher's Eye, like take a look here. When we're looking at all of these characters that have made it to level 92 to level 100, 55% of players are using a Watcher's Eye. Now, does that mean that's good? Does that mean that's bad? Does that mean that that's a thing? It just means that it's there. It's a simple thing that a lot of players choose to grab a Watcher's Eye, because oftentimes a Watcher's Eye is going to provide you with best in slot rolls on a jewel that oftentimes passive cost isn't very much, because oftentimes passives are like 1 or 2 passive points out of the way to go grab a jewel slot. But in terms of the unique mods that you can get on a Watcher's Eye, it's irreplaceable. You can't find those mods on other pieces of gear or on other jewels or on other passive items, or even oftentimes on other Ascendancies. They're just really, really good in terms of their value. So again, I would just offer Watcher's Eye and some other very, very popular items as a counterpoint to say, hey, if you think that one Ascendancy, simply because its popularity is too high or is largely differentiated from the rest of the crowd, if you think that simply the popularity of something makes it nerfable, I would like to present to you Watcher's Eye as maybe a counterpoint to that, that there is some desirability in chase items and in utility of items and in catch-all for items. So for instance, the second most popular item is a Wise Oak, because there are so many characters that do elemental damage and that want to penetrate and get free penetration from a Wise Oak that they otherwise wouldn't necessarily be able to pick up from their items, from their Ascendancy, or from the passive tree. So simply because something is popular doesn't mean it needs a nerf. I'm saying that both for Ascendancies as well as for items. Simply because Ascendant and Elementalist and Occultist are very popular doesn't necessarily mean they need a nerf. And simply because Slayer and Chieftain and Berserker are down at the bottom of the totem pole of popularity for people that have made it level 92 to level 100 doesn't necessarily mean they need a buff. What it might mean is they need some better marketing. What it might mean is they need some people showing off builds that feature their particular unique mechanics. But simply because of the popularity of something doesn't necessarily mean that it's mechanically bad. Okay, so that's our first discussion for the day. The second discussion for the day that I'd love to hear thoughts from all of you is from OroBros612. So this is a discussion about power creep, and so I'm just laying it out there right away for you. Jump into the power creep discussion. Hashtag power creep. So here we go. I want to discuss this. In the beginning of PoE, stuff was hard. I think the general terminology is power creeping, when the player in the opposition becomes so badly warped that the balance is just too much in the player's favor to feel any sense of achievement over making a good build or actually clear content. I don't mind feeling powerful. Games are supposed to be fun and empowering. I simply feel like it has gone too far. Not sure what changes can be made, buffing mobs, adding dungeon bosses, new endgame content. It just feels like there is a fundamental power differentiation right now that has gone too far. So, the too long didn't read, and my question to you in the community: do you think 4.0 needs to address this? Do you think steps to disempower the players a bit would be good? All right, so I will contribute 2 really quick thoughts on this and then turn it all over to you all in the comment section to let us know what you guys think. I think, first off, whenever we're talking about power creep, I feel like we've got to define our terms. Power creep sometimes gets used to reference a new thing that has come in from a threshold or a baseline that was once the established understanding of the game, right? So if you've got an item, right, that comes in and its power level, let's just pick a random number, right? Its power level is 10. And so everything throughout the rest of the game is based around that power level of 10. Because that item is the most powerful item in the game with its base level at 10. And then you introduce a new item that comes into the game, and its base level is 15. Then we're going, okay, this is just straight power creep. The game itself has grown. But that's actually not a bad thing if the content that's provided in the game also demands that you have stuff that's at power level 15 to deal with it, because the power level stuff at 10 just won't deal with it anymore. So I feel like we need to define our terms whenever we start talking about power creep. If Grinding Gear games still had Path of Exile as a 4-act 3 difficulty game with several different tiers of maps for us to progress through and no true end game, no true side end game, no true alternative ways to play, then maybe so. Then maybe the power creep that has happened would justifiably be called simply power creep in and of itself. But I think in terms of that definition of power creep, the power of 10 versus the power of 15 and the increasing level of stuff as it comes out, content has matched the items and the buffs that have come to the player. A whole slew of the player population does not take out Shaper, does not complete their Atlas in the 3-month league. A whole slew of players play Standard because they don't have time to play in a particular league. And a whole slew of players push for their goals over the course of multiple months, because even though their character might be powerful and they're following a build guide for a particular character, maybe they're just not in the mood to play that character, and so they're pushing with another character because they find it to be fun. God forbid that anybody have fun in games anymore, or prioritize fun as opposed to efficiency. But anyway, saving that rant for later. So, as we're discussing power creep, just keep those things in mind. Is the content that has been released by Grinding Gear justifiable for the new stuff that's come out? I definitely think so. That's where I'm going to land. Yes, is there power creep? Sure, the players continually get stronger and stronger. There's no doubt about that. I think double corruptions from incursions were absolutely out of this world in terms of their power levels that they can create. I think the delve fossils that have been introduced over the last year has made it incredibly accessible for the average player to get into crafting and to craft really awesome end game stuff. And it's brought the difference from really top end, high priced ticket items in an economy to feel pretty much in line with stuff that you can craft on your own if you're a casual player. Yes, is there still difference? Absolutely. And if you're going to min-max your character, yes, that price difference still makes a difference. But for the most part, most of us can probably clear the game. Most of us can probably find a goal and establish a goal for ourselves within a 3-month time period and then accomplish that. Many players can do that now thanks to things like Delve, thanks to things like Bestiary, thanks to things like incursion. So while the power level of players have gone up, the challenge has also gone up for players. If you want to take out incursions, then you need to have a certain speed of your build. If you want to gather a whole bunch of fossils, then you need to have a dedicated low-level fossil farmer. If you want to farm betrayal, then you've got to be willing to dedicate yourself to having a speed farmer to do it, or having a character that can go in and take out the boss very, very efficiently and effectively. If you want to push really far down into Delve, you've got to have a character that can do that. Both offensively and defensively. If you want to have a character that goes and clears the entire Atlas, you've got to both be able to boss as well as clear trash. If you want to be able to take out Shaper and Uber Elder, right? So do you see I'm just piling up all of these different things that are available now in the end game? If PoE was just a 4-act, 3 difficulty, ho-hum, let's go into maps now that we're in the end game and try to min-max our character past level 80, yeah, then power creep would absolutely be disproportional to the challenge that's there. But now we've got synthesis that's a week away. It's a week away, folks, and we've got even more endgame stuff that's coming to the game. So I think power creep is probably in a pretty decent spot. But that's my own personal opinion. Feel free to disagree with me, and I hope that today is the day that you find a Mirror of Calandra in your second monitor while you're leaving us a comment down below on your thoughts on power creep and on the sheep of the meta as it's changed. We're 1 week away from synthesis. Get hype, everybody.